are going to go ahead and get started. So thank you all for joining us today. Those of you who are in the room and those of you who are joining us online. I'm Melissa Barnett. I'm the director of the Francis McClelland Institute for Children, Youth, and Families, FMI. And before we get started with today's talk, we want to first acknowledge where we are here in Tucson, Arizona, by sharing the University of Arizona land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge the University of Arizona is on the land and territories of Indigenous peoples. Today, Arizona is home to 22 federally recognized tribes, with Tucson being home to the O'odham and the Yaqui. The university strives to build sustainable relationships with sovereign Native nations and Indigenous communities through education offerings, partnerships, and community service. Next, I want to tell you a little bit about FMI. Our goal is to work collaboratively to build resilient communities that support families so that children and youth, especially those experiencing marginalization and other forms of disadvantage, have the opportunity to thrive. We do this by supporting innovative research, educating the next generation of engaged scholars and leaders. I'm happy every Turbeville series to have you sitting around the table with us, sharing research findings with practitioners in the community, thank you to our presenters, and actively partnering with community organizations. We do this work to honor the legacy of Francis McClelland, who was a generous philanthropist and a tireless advocate for children, youth, families, women, and individuals with disabilities. She truly lived a life that exemplified resilience, and she was dedicated to supporting resilience for others. We are also very grateful to the support for the support of Pamela Turbeville, who is a Norton School U of A alum who continues to give back in important ways. Finally, I want to tell you about our one remaining event for the year. We hope you come back on May 1st, where we will highlight some of the work of the early career wonderful students that we have here. We'll be over in the Forbes building in the lobby there, and we encourage other students to it's one of the fewer events, there are more now, we say we were the only one on campus that really highlights undergraduate and graduate research in the same forum. Okay, and finally, the reason you're here, we are so pleased to have our this presentation, because in many ways we've been working as part of FMI to really do more collaboration with Cooperative Extension. And so this is fun to hear about some of the great work that Cooperative Extension is doing. And I'm not going to give large bios here, but I know it's a large team. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about the 4 people who are here in the room with us presenting today. First, Dr. Dan McDonald, who is the director of the Take Charge America Institute here in the Norton School, as well as an extension specialist. Debbie Curley, who is the Pima County Family Engagement Program Director and an Area Associate Agent with Cooperative Extension. Dr. Madeline DeBlois, who is Assistant Evaluation Specialist with Cooperative Extension and an Assistant Professor in Human Development and Family Science. And then finally, last but not least, just last in the line there, Noel Wilkinson, who is the Program Coordinator with the Take Charge America Institute. And with that, I am going to turn it over to our presenters. If you are joining us online, and if you have questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll have time for Q&A in the end.
All right, thank you, and welcome everyone. Thanks for inviting our team, Dr. Barnett, to present for the Turbeville speaker series. We're pleased to be here and to tell you about the work that we're doing in financial literacy education around the state, and we'll be talking about a particular program that we are running in a couple of the communities here in Arizona. You've already introduced this team of presenters, but we want to acknowledge our other team members who have contributed to the program, the development and delivery of the program that we're going to be talking about. So first of all is Associate Area Agent Ashley Dixon Kleiber, who's up there. She's in Gila County. They weren't able to come down, so would be traveling a distance to come here. So I don't know if maybe they're online listening. But Ashley has her staff of instructors there. There's Josie Castillo, and Allison Zapp up in Gila County. And then in Pima County, working with us, with Debbie and the rest of us, is Vicky Had Whistler, Natalie Kuros, and Stephanie Carl. So what we're going to talk about today is the partnership that the Take Charge America Institute has with Cooperative Extension. So part of my role is extension. I'm an extension specialist in addition to being a faculty at the Norton School. And so we're really able to, we work with a number of different counties, but this particular one, we're working with Pima and Gila County, as well as extension specialists for financial literacy and evaluation are part of this. But first, I do want to give you a little bit of an overview of the Institute. Some of you may or may not be familiar with the Take Charge America Institute for Consumer Financial Education and Research. So we have two parts. We have the education part, and we also support research. Some of our educational outreach programs that we do, well, first of all, the Institute was established in 2003. So we've been around for a while. We got a very generous endowment donation of $5.6 million. Yeah, if you have a chance to get an endowment, go for it. Really good. And so what happens is the earnings from that endowment, that's with the foundation, the earnings help support the work that we do, the staff that we have and the programming that we do through the Institute specifically. But we don't rest on our laurels. We go out and we get grants and contracts and sponsorships and gifts to help support broader programming in addition to what I'm going to describe here. So some of the outreach, the Take Charge Cats, you may be familiar with them. It's about 15 to 20 undergraduate students from the University of Arizona who are trained to deliver workshops to middle, high school, and colleges students. They can come from any major, but we do have some of the majors from the Norton School who are part-time student employees. They do a great job out there. They deliver about 400 workshops per year, primarily in the greater Tucson area, although we've reached out to Phoenix as well. Their culminating event for the year, after high school students have received so many workshops, they're able to form teams and compete in a case study called the Arizona Financial Face-Off, which is happening April 18th, right here in this very building. We usually have 100 to 150 high school students here, along with their teachers. We are celebrating the 20th anniversary of that event this year. And we're really pleased. This past year was the first year that we've received a sponsorship from Hughes Federal Credit Union. So they are actually helping financially to support that program. In addition to that, we've just launched the Financial Coaching Cats, which Noel heads up. We have, is it 5 or do we just have 4 now? 4 coaches. These are personal and family financial planning students or majors or minors who have been trained to be financial coaches. We started working with campus students doing financial coaching for them, but then we got a United Way grant that will enable us to expand to the community to do financial coaching as well. And then finally, the volunteer efforts. So we have a VISTA member. If you're not familiar with VISTA, it's Volunteers in Service to America. It was started under the Johnson administration in the mid-1960s to battle poverty. Our VISTA member is putting together a volunteer infrastructure to really spread the word a little bit more about better savings, awareness about the FAFSA form. We are one of the lowest states in seniors in high school completing a FAFSA form. And then also doing some other types of programs, including the Littles Count Big Change. I'll talk about in a second. See how I'm doing with time. We also do some other outreach programming with cooperative extension. So these are programs maybe we've developed or we've borrowed from other places. So the first one on the list is Where Does Your Money Go? Actually, Purdue University developed that. I think we've improved it with the changes and alterations that we've made to it. It's kind of a very light touch, one-time workshop that we try to get people into that and then into more intensive workshops. But that one has them reflect on their financial behaviors and take a look at their discretionary spending. We've delivered this to a couple thousand people over the past several years here in Arizona. We asked them to identify their spending leaks, and we've come up with, over the years, with all these people participating, $2,500 is the average in spending leaks that people have identified. So that's discretionary spending and we don't judge, we don't tell them what to do, but we think, take a look at what your values are and do they align with how you're spending your money. We also have the more intensive 5-week series of building financial security that we've developed. This really gets more intensive in terms of people examining their financial behaviors, reflecting on their values in their financial journey. And then we basically give them some tools if they decide to make adjustments in their financial behaviors. We give them the tools to do that. And then littles count, big change. Even 3 to 5-year-olds can learn about money. We do that through storybooks and just fun games with the little ones. And we help parents and care providers teach children kind of the building blocks to money. And then we'll talk more about Family Talks Money Edition shortly, but that's the one that we've developed with this team. A little bit, very little bit about cooperative extension. Some of you may not be familiar with extension, but we're all part of that. So Madeline and I are faculty members here, but we also have appointments within cooperative extension. Noel supports that work. Debbie, of course, is a faculty member with extension here in Pima County. What we do is help the university fulfill its mission of, remember, with land-grant universities, teaching, research, and outreach. So we help with that outreach portion of what we do. What we try to do is translate the research that's being done here and at other universities and apply it in ways that are useful here in Arizona to the residents of Arizona. Extension, there's an extension in every single state, just about every single county in the United States. They're organized differently, but here we basically have 4 parts to it. There's agriculture and natural resources, there's 4-H youth development, there's tribal extension, and then there's the area that we're in, that's family, consumer, and health sciences. We have the good fortune, Noel and I, with the work that we do through the Institute to support financial literacy education throughout the state with a number of partners. So in addition to this group, we work in about 8 counties and 2 tribal communities around the state supporting the financial literacy education that they're doing out there. And then finally, we're going to be talking about a Children, Youth, and Families at Risk, CYFAR, what we call it, grant through USDA NIFA. We are just wrapping up our 4th year of a 5-year grant. It's through USDA. It's only available to land-grant universities to apply for. We were fortunate, it is competitive, and we were really fortunate to get it. It's for sustainable community projects and, based on locally identified needs. And we're going to talk more about that now. So I'm going to pass it over to Debbie Curley.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, we'll try to stand up just to mix it up. But yes, as Dan said, I'm a family consumer health sciences agent. I run something called the Family Engagement Program just down the street. So Cooperative Extension has offices in every county, like he was showing the map, which means that in Pima County, we have a campus, an off-campus office, which is does anybody know where the Tucson Village Farm is? So it's right up there. And so it's really fun. We have chickens at our office. So everybody needs chickens at their office. And it's a beautiful place. That's where I work. And I run something called the Family Engagement Program, and we teach classes for parents. And this Family Talks Money Edition is one of those classes. I was lucky enough to be part of this grant with Dan. It's a federal grant. And we got this grant for 5 years, and we could create something with it, like just go with it. Here's your money. A lot of times you don't get grants for that kind of thing. Like this is, you can just start something from scratch. We had the idea of, I'll be honest, sometimes talking about money can be a little bit dry. One of the ideas behind marrying money and like talks about finances and talks about family and parenting education was to give it a little bit of flavor, to give it a little bit of from an angle of like relationship building and communication and trust and all those kinds of things, because it is intertwined in each other. Families have stress that's related to money. Families want to talk about money, and it's important to have trust before you do that. So they're all intermingled in there. And that was kind of our motivation for doing that, was to kind of emphasize and deepen both, right? Some people don't want to talk about their feelings. So if you talk about it using money as a proxy, then that kind of takes the pressure off of it, and vice versa. So it's been really successful and refreshing in that way for all of it. And I'm just curious, how many people grew up like in your household talking about money with your parents? A little bit, a lot. No, it's maybe half and half. I did not either. No one ever, except for one time I bounced a check, and my grandfather told me I was going to ruin my reputation. And I was like, is it about my reputation or my credit score? But anyway, I grew up in the South, so that's how they are down there. But not a whole lot of conversation about money in our household either. It's a pretty big task, if you can imagine, like you're in high school. This class is for families with kids 12 to 18. You're a 16-year-old, you're dealing with all sorts of whatever things that 16-year-olds concern themselves with. And your parents say, let's go for 8 weeks to a high school that you don't even go to, and go to the library for 2 hours a night and learn about money together. And magically, this is working. It's happening. We're getting families to come in and do this. Our goal has really been to make this as fun as possible, a good use of their time. We've been really creative with marketing and trying to, try all angles and appeal to them. Finances are a trending topic with teens. And so that has also, we're kind of, I think, tapping into something that people find important. And we offer dinner and childcare for the kids that are not in the age of the class, that aren't 12 to 18. So that makes it all pretty fun. We also offer $100 at the end of the class. So it's $50 for the set of parents and $50 for the teens. And I think that's made a difference. It's probably played some role in their decision to spend this time. So yes, that's it. And my timer, because I ramble sometimes. But yes, so those are all the things that we were kind of trying to emphasize through this. Like I mentioned, mixing kind of finances and parenting and building trust and communication. And then we also wanted to better connect families to resources such as 4-H. And so obviously we have a rich smattering of programs in the 4-H program that we can also help families to know about. So we are connecting this, and it could be, do y'all know about 4-H? Youth Development Program. So there's what they would call a traditional 4-H program. You might think of kids that are raising goats and guinea pigs and things like that. That's traditional 4-H, but there's non-traditional 4-H, which could be something like starting a group on finances. So that could be something that anybody could kind of contribute to that's in the 4-H program. So that could give us an opportunity to collaborate with them. So what we do is, I mean, yeah, you're there with your parents, right? From 6 to 8 p.m. at night. You might not want to sit right next to them the whole time. You might want to kind of break up and you work with teens that are your own age and get to know other people. So we try to make it not be like everybody, all the whole family is together the entire time, attached at the hip. And so we start out with, it's 8 sessions, like I mentioned, it's at night. We've done it at Tucson High, we've done it at Palo Verde, and we did it at the campus, the off-campus office up there by the meat lab. They come there, they have dinner, we do a welcome, we have fun, we do icebreakers and things like that. And then we have a breakouts usually in almost all the classes where the parents go into one room and the teens go into the other room, and we work on the concepts there. So we do try to allow them a little bit of freedom to talk about some things that might be bothering them. And things certainly come up with regard to dynamics in the house, whether it's about money or any other issues that are happening. And then we bring them back together and talk about it, kind of reflect on what each other's kind of learned and build on those concepts. And then we have homework, which has been a photo voice, which, are you going to talk about that, Noel? Okay, great. But it's a fun new way to do homework. So be creative.
But not call it homework.
Then we not call it homework, right? Homework without calling it homework. If you want to see a little bit more detail, you can use this QR code. It's like a fleshed out version of the session summary. It's got the details of what we do in some of the classes and descriptions. But generally, we do the flow of the class is such that we start out with an activity called Planting Your Financial Garden. And so we have the parents and the kids filling out. There's no way I'm going to remember the exact ones that there are, but there's 3 different pieces. We've got a big empty mound of dirt on the wall, figurative mound of dirt on the wall. And we give them shovels and seeds and droplets of water. They're cut out in construction paper to write down their kind of vision and challenges and hopes and dreams for their finances for the future. So that might not be something that anybody's ever thought about, as a family. And so it does offer an opportunity to kind of set the scene of what they think about money, or to even consider things. They don't know what they don't know really in the beginning. And so we're kind of opening up that can of great worms to talk about their money in the garden and the dirt worms and the worms. Yeah, it's good. That was good. So then we also in the second session, we're talking about finance, and another way we get kind of deeper into finances, we talk about values. I don't know if y'all ever think about that. We have some interesting tools to have people think about, am I a big spender? Do I love helping other people? Do I take risks with my money? Am I down to the penny? Do I, track these things? Do I have any sense of tracking at all? And I don't know where y'all fall along those lines, but sometimes we don't even think about it, that my spending might be different from your spending from yours. And so it's helpful to know that. And it's helpful to know what skills you might possess that would make you good at one thing versus another with regard to money. Emotional wealth, we talk about that in the third session. We get a little bit deep in terms of, finances are stressful. Finances can make you really happy. There's a lot of emotions related to that. We do an activity where we walk around and we write some feelings on a piece of paper, a feeling that you had this week or something like that. And we put it on the floor, and you have to walk around on those feelings with your feet and drag them. And we talk about that, how hard it is to walk, and how hard it is to function when you're not letting your feelings out, when you're not expressing your feelings, when you've got them tying you down. And so we try to just help people be a little bit more aware of the influence of that stress or happiness on their spending habits, or on their relationships, or on their communication with their parents. A lot of times they might be getting pushback from their parents on things because they don't understand that how stressful money is, because they don't have the same responsibilities. Yeah, I mean, when we talk, yeah, I'll talk about that in the budgeting section, but yeah, so in communication, we also look a lot at help families kind of reflect as a team on what are their communication styles, what kind of things do they think go well in their family in terms of communication. Some people come in and those families are like just totally fine and thriving um and really enjoy a lot of they teach the class a lot of things about best practices and ways that they um succeed together and are a well-oiled machine. And then some other families are having a lot of challenges having some basic communication together. And so we really create, I'll say, an environment that's not judgmental in terms of what that reality is for the families, but just try to help everybody be the expert on their kids and share what it is that they do best. So then in session 5, budgeting, we talk about, and I wanted to say there, it's really interesting when you have a, 30 something parent, a parent in their 30s or 40s, and talking about their spending leaks. We talk about spending leaks a lot. Like, what do you blow your cash on that you may not care about? You're like, I'm going to do this anyway. I want my coffee every morning, that kind of thing, versus the spending leaks of teenagers. And it's kind of hilarious to look at that and realize what the concerns are and what people are motivated by, what kind of things they want to spend their money on. And so we really do think that opens up a door for them to have empathy, if nothing else, for each other and what kind of things that are important to them in life. Again, no judgment, but just being aware that these are someone's priorities. So we look at that. We look at intentional versus reactive spending in that class. You want to be someone who might be able to make a plan and think about the future. It's very hard to have for all of us to think about ourselves in the future and to want to be different. If I want to have $1 million in my bank account, what do I have to do? It's very far in the future, and that's hard for adults and much less for teens. So it's a really challenging concept, and I think through this collaboration that we've gotten through TCAI, we've learned how to communicate that to them so that they can think about the future, because it is hard to put yourself in the future. So yeah, we have some cool videos that talk about basic money concepts. There's a lot of basic money concepts that that a lot of the teens don't have today, especially as, for example, where everything's digitized. A lot of them barely see cash at all. And so there's a real learning curve there, and we're still learning how grave the lack of knowledge is, because some of it is pretty extreme. It's really changing fast in terms of their knowledge. So we try to give some basics as far as budgeting goes. And then we look at financial freedom. What does it look like to you? What do you hope for yourself? What lifestyle do you expect yourself to have? What do you envision? What's that going to take? Setting SMART goals and really holding yourself to the fire for your those hopes and dreams that you put down in the financial garden. Like, if this is what I want, how do I get there? And then we go deep into some tools that TCAI has that I never really knew that much about, but different ways of paying off debt, for example, and highlighting, what interest looks like and what compound interest looks like, and the good and the bad that can come from both. So, and we want to be positive. We want to have, it's not just about getting out of the hole. It's about, planning and maybe using stocks and investing and, having big visions for yourself as a family. And then Noel's going to talk about the celebrating success and some other things that that we do in this last class. We have an escape room, which kind of culminates all of the learning that we've done and is achieved through Noel's creative brain. And just keep in mind when he talks about it, the whole escape room came out of his head. So I find that amazing. These are the any questions about the content? Okay. With regard to recruitment, we go to events and do outreach at different places where there are families with teens, and we, use flyers and social media and connecting with the school districts where we've been hosting, most of the classes, and, finding out the best avenues for bringing families in. And every school is different in terms of their ways of doing outreach. So, we've been, kind of doing it differently at every place that we go, but, it's been a lot of fun, and we've had a lot of, really, engaged families in the series. So this is us as we're building, lesson plans. This is what it looks like when we're doing that. We, really, like I said, brought together two, different types of curriculum. And so, that requires a lot of, this is an inventing of the wheel. A lot of times if you don't have to, you don't necessarily want to invent a wheel. But this is a really exciting this is a great wheel to invent. And, but it requires a lot of tweaking too. And so, so it's been a process. We've had the luxury of working on this for 5 years. And we take what the parents say and incorporate that into adjusting that curriculum, continually. So, that's been a great thing to do. And Noel and I have bonded a lot, and, a lot of these sessions, but it's fun. And, we do a lot of rolling up our sleeves, looking at what's working with this curriculum. There's kind of a garden in the back. That's some of the, shovels and seeds and, water droplets. But, yeah, so we get together and, talk about the curriculum and how we can make it better and what's working with families, and, the effects, which Madeline will talk about, different impacts that we've made on families, and, that kind of thing. All right. Are you now?
Yes, I guess.
Okay. Yes, that's fine. I'll just sit over Noel.
So hi, everybody. My name is Noel, and I get to share with you probably the most favorite parts that I have of our curriculum. It's the fun stuff. Because yes, we're teaching financial concepts. We're trying to help develop financial literacy in both adults and teens. We're trying to build family communication and help people feel trust and be able to have those conversations within their homes. But we're not trying to bore them to death while we do this. And so there is some special kind of magic that happens when you bring families together and you invite them to start playing, designing, drawing, imagining, competing, just being creative. And Debbie talked about some of those awesome, cool things that we're already doing in a lot of that content with simulations, role plays, and things like that. And I'm just here to tell you some more of the things that truly help us bring this curriculum from a place where they just sort of sit in it to one where they actually get to experience what's going on with it. So one of the biggest goals in our Family Talks Money edition is to make conversations about money feel more natural, ongoing, and if I can say it, enjoyable. Because nobody wants to sit there feeling like, they're pulling their hair out talking about money with their kids or their kids with their parents. So one of the ways that we did that is through these at-home activities, i.e. homework. That's the naughty work. We don't talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about homework. But what these at-home talks were hands-on expressive. Oh, sorry. What am I doing? They were structured opportunities for parents and teens to have conversations. Sometimes there was something that they needed to do, like complete an assessment or a little fun quiz. Like think like what's your color personality type assessments, right? In this case, we were talking what's your money values. And so one of those being this money values, it helped people identify like where is it important for them? What about money is where their values are coming from? And so to kind of put it into perspective, what we then had after they completed this assessment, they would then submit to us, express themselves through this. It was called Photo Voice. That's got a really more intentional definition behind it than what we're doing with it. But what it is it's an artifact that we collect from them. Could be a meme, could be something they draw, could be a photo. I mean, gosh, I guess they could doodle something on a Post-it note and bring it to them at the next class. But what it is it let us see how they were taking what we were talking about and conceptualizing it for themselves. And it gave a fun way for the teens to be able to express themselves, which I think was really important. And then so to kind of put it into perspective, like with this money values quiz, last week I spent all week on a cool vacation with my family. We were on a boat in the middle of the ocean. And if I, coming back, if I were to think about like, man, how do I feel about my spending after being on a boat and paying all this money on this for this cruise? Well, I can tell you what, my meme that I'd be sharing with the class right now would be me digging in a couch looking for whatever spare change, because that's how I'm feeling about the spending right now. But my wife and my daughter, they'd be sharing different images, right? Because it's how they are responding to what's going on and what they're feeling. So while these offer opportunities for humor, what's the most important is that for families that have previously never talked about money with each other, they're getting to use a unique vehicle through these memes. It's more safe ways to share, to come up with a shared language around money within their home. So another pillar of our engagement is, what did I do? Did I hit the wrong button? Oh, I skipped a thing. I'm so sorry. Spoiler alert. No. So another pillar of the engagement strategy was appealing to our visual learners. So like I said, we wanted to find ways for teens to be able to express themselves. And we found through a lot of trial and error that for a lot of the teens, visual expression was a lot easier than trying to have to like be open and honest with their feelings and put them into words. And so we have a lot of different opportunities for families and in the teen breakouts for participants to draw or to express themselves in visual ways. And so one of those things, to give you an example from what we do, is we have in our lesson where we talk about goals with teens, we took this concept of draw your future. It was an activity inspired by Patty Doe, I cannot pronounce her last name to save my life, Dobrowski's TED Rayner talk. She's talking to adults. We distilled it down to work with teens, but what it is on this top part, the teens get this handout, and what it is, it asks them to visualize two different things. The first on the left-hand side of the paper when they get it is where they are right now. What are their current habits, their stresses, their goals, and their daily activities? And then on the right-hand side, we ask them to visualize where do they want to be? What is their future version of themselves that they're aspiring toward? And sometimes the teens kind of look at us like, what the heck, man? I'm too worried about what I'm doing tomorrow, let alone like what you're asking me to think like years in advance. But what we do find is that through this activity, the teens are very responsive and they start expressing themselves. I do stick figures, but we've had teens that have come up with very ornate drawings as part of this activity, which is really cool. And then on top of talking about having them visualize where they are, where they want to be, we ask them to think about what are the next 3 bold steps that they need to take to get from where they are to where they want to be. And so this is how we're linking it into goal setting. We start laying those steps for action steps coming out of that. But we don't just stop there. Oh my gosh, no. We have them give a whoop because we want them to now take these goals that they started with internalized, that they now externalized through this visual activity. And we want them to think about what are those obstacles that could get in their way of implementing those 3 bold steps. And that's what the WHOOP program is, mindset is about. It's actually a mental contrasting and implementation intentions intervention for those who like the fancy research language. But what it really is in layman's terms, is identifying a wish, imagining the obstacle that would get in your way. Imagining the outcome, identifying the obstacles impeding you from achieving that wish and outcome, and then the implementation intentions piece, coming up with plans today for how you'll respond to that obstacle before you even see it. And I kid you not, this is something where it's really powerful for the teens. When I was growing up, we did the DARE program, and it was like you learn to say no to drugs before your friends were, pressuring you to take the drugs. It's, I think, a more advanced version of that by saying, I know I'm going to struggle with this particular obstacle to get to my future, but I've already got a plan to either overcome it or get around it. It's really powerful in helping the teens to get to where they want to go. And then finally, looking at ways that we can involve the power of play. I recognize that play is a critical part of growing up as a kid and learning how to do things. And it has powerful opportunities to instill in us and ingrain in us the skills that we develop when we're young. Well, the good news is that we don't have to stop playing as we get older. We can do it as teens and we can do it as parents, and it has powerful impacts on our ability to learn, especially when it comes to financial concepts. That's my belief, and I think we're able to see some of the beginning bubbling up of benefits of this, and hopefully Madeline will be able to point to some of that in some of the evaluation data that we've collected. I'm not saying that we've solved it, we've not solved it, but I think we're doing some good stuff in this space. So we do gamification in a lot of different ways. But whether that's bringing in game show themed activities, complete with theme songs and game show personalities, those big, boisterous, breaking people into teams, having them compete, they score points, and then at the end, there's some sort of reward. It's probably small. It's a keychain. I'm not going to lie to you. But whatever that is, that element of competition, that having a point structure in place, it makes the learning deeper and it makes it stick. We also do things with the FAFSA, where we play a myths and fact, because I can't say fact or crap. Dan won't let me say that in professional presentations. But that's what that game is. It's mimicking that kind of game, where we say a statement and they have to determine, is that true or is that not true about the FAFSA? And we're seeing students who've never thought about FAFSA before, now teens and parents, now say, well, now I'm thinking about it. We have people who are like, I wasn't going to fill it out, but now I'm going to fill it out. We're doing cool things with that. The other piece of gamification is this escape room. And yeah, it's an escape room-like experience. They are given a scenario that they have to help get the bank manager out of the locked vault, because our bank manager is not the best at what he does. But they do solve a series of puzzles around that to get the bank manager out of the vault. And those puzzles are financial literacy based around concepts, but it's also opportunities for them to practice all of those communication skills that they've been learning throughout. To think, because you don't want to throttle your teammates when you're in an escape room. That's not how you get out. But yeah, so we designed this though to be an immersive challenge for families to be able to work together, as well as to be the culminating experience where we get to see, did they learn and are they able to do the things that we've been talking with them about throughout this time. The families love it. So far, no one has failed to get out of it, except for the team that tested, our own team that tested this experience. So the families have been successful, sometimes narrowly by the skin of the
I don't know about y'all, but I panic when I get in an escape room.
We also learned that Sudokus are apparently the most evil puzzle designed by man. Right, Dan?
According to your participants?
According to our test participants.
According to them.
But I think what's really big and important to talk about is when we're talking about engagement in Family Talks Money Edition, we're not doing any of this as a gimmick. We're talking about thoughtfully designing these experiences to be creative, visual, collaborative, and fun, because we want to help families build money skills and strengthen their communication. Thank you.
All right. That's like space bar. I am going to talk about our findings. So I'm going to situate us in what we needed. So as you've heard, this is a CYFAR award that comes with like a dump truck full of evaluation responsibilities. So that is one whole piece that we have to contend with. Then, as Debbie said, this is a brand new program.
So we need to know who it's reaching, and we need a lot of iterative feedback so that they can understand what's working, what's not working, what needs to change along the way. And then we've got sort of our outcomes evaluation. So are folks learning the things that we set out to have them learn? We aspire to have them change in these family communication ways as well as financial literacy ways. And to do this, the team really, everybody infused evaluation into their work. So we presented this sort of diffusion of evaluation throughout everything last year at the CYFAR conference. They require it, but I think very few teams do it as integratively as this one does. So Noel talked about the different ways that like homework assignments are giving that iterative feedback to the team. There is really a rich side of the program development and that kind of feedback and reflection from the team of folks designing this curriculum and building it, and their reflection and evaluation. And so just to give you a sense that, yes, I'm the evaluator named on this, but really it was a massive team effort. In terms of what the participants were doing, so we have a bunch of data. We have to collect that demographic data. So we get that from adults at registration. We get that from the surveys that teens do when they start. Part of that dump truck of stuff from CYFAR are big picture assessments like resiliency, life skills, things that you might say, do you really think every program is going to change all of this? But you are required to collect them nonetheless, so collect them we do. Then those learning assessments along the way, as well as that program delivery sort of weekly satisfaction stuff for formative evaluation. Those for most weeks looked like this. Pretty simple 4-square evals for both the adults and the youth in the program. Just best things out of the day, something to repeat again, a thing they didn't like out of the day, and then something they hope they don't do again. Nuts and bolts wise, these are happening across 8 sessions. Again, because of the sheer volume of data that we are asked to collect, we split it between homework surveys and in-class surveys. We prioritize the ones we really wanted to get from people into the very first and very last classes so that we could say, hey, you're literally sitting in the room with us. We have some guarantee that you will complete these. And the ones that were maybe slightly less important to us, but maybe required, got to be pushed to homework. And then we've done a 4-month follow-up survey. So after the graduates have left the class, we ping them again and see whether those behaviors are sticking. So the data that I'm going to share with you come from 6 cohorts that have run from February 2024 through the end of last year. Dan didn't mention it, but a beautiful thing about the CYFAR grants is that they build in a whole year of planning. So we got this, we're in year 4, but the whole first year, they let you just build your team and build your curriculum, and that is a gift in the grant world. So adults, we've had 51 register. 32 of those have actually done all the way through pre and post assessments. Those tend to be female. A large number are Hispanic or Latino, and they are a very educated bunch. So over half have a college degree at least. For youth, we had 43 that started with baseline data. 28 of those stuck it out through the post assessment. Those are slightly more male, 72% Hispanic Latino. And it reaches grades 6 through 12. About half of those are in grades either 8 or 9. Despite those 4-year college degrees, participants really are coming from a pretty wide variety of financial stability. So this is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's financial stability scale, self-report, ranges from 0 to 100. There's not a cutoff on this is good and this is bad, but more is better. And you can see that the folks showing up and talking about finances really kind of cover the spectrum there. One of the things when you start working in financial literacy worlds and financial stability worlds is trying to get people banked. These folks are. They are coming in quite banked. Pretty much everybody had a bank account. The vast majority have a savings account. We did have one person report that between the start and end of class, they had opened a new savings account. Just sort of consolidating and articulating some of the goals that we were looking for. So as Debbie explained, this idea of positive parenting, positive family communication and problem solving, this idea of financial parenting. So I know U of A folks have done some work around that. So, are you talking with your kids about finances? And is that a very specific angle of communication that's happening in the family? All the way down to nuts and bolts financial literacy. And then, as you heard Dan talk about, a theme of much of this instruction that they're doing is decreasing spending leaks. So we also said we would look for evidence of that. And in terms of what we've seen, so this is the positive parenting. It's a 7-item scale, runs from a 1 to 5, which is basically never, to very often on good things the parents can do, primarily related to the idea of discipline around their kids. We didn't see much happening here. There was pretty little increase between pre and post scores. Similarly, for this idea of general family communication, we see a really tiny tick up in the adults. It's not significant. Youth say a little bit more of an increase going, this is now a 0 to 3 scale where 3 is most of the time, 2 is sometimes. So they're seeing a few more positive family communication things. Some example items, these are from the parenting version of this. We don't always agree on issues, but at least my teen and I can talk about our differences without criticizing each other. That one had a decent amount of movement there. In contrast to something like I want to hear my teen's view on issues, which had little to no change, but was very high to start. Like parents were coming in pretty close to the ceiling on that, but we didn't see change. So that could be part of what's happening in the relative lack of movement on family communication. And then financial communication, we start to see bigger changes. So adults here, again, a 1 to 5 scale with responses ranging from never to very often across, I think, like 17 items. And we see that adults are increasing frequency in their reported financial communication with their youth, and youth are similarly reporting a small uptick in communication with their parents around money issues. An example item for this is something like I help my child develop financial goals, which we saw a pretty good sized jump in between pre and post. And then the really big shining stuff that starts to emerge is the financial literacy piece out of this. So this scale, strongly disagree to strongly agree. Adults are moving much more towards indicators of knowledge of financial literacy practices, as are youth. And then one of the things you heard both Dan and Noel touch on as a cornerstone of working with teens in financial literacy is FAFSA. So this is showing adults' confidence in completing a FAFSA with their teen, less than half. So that 19 and 23 were either very confident or had done it at the start. And by the end, that was over 60%. So there's some real movement there. And for youth, their knowledge at baseline, 61% were like, nope, haven't heard of it, don't know about that. And as you would expect, if you spent classes talking about it, but always nice to see it borne out in the data, is a real switch to that, including someone who had filled it out by the end of the class. 17% saying they know a lot, and at least 60-ish% saying they know something about it now. And then to that other cornerstone piece on spending leaks. So this is pulling from that 4 months post-graduation data. We say, how are you approaching spending leaks these days? And happily, we see that about half have worked to minimize their spending leaks and they're happy with their progress, which is, not huge, but 50%, approaching 50%, I would say from an 8-session intervention is a happy place. The other half-ish have worked and haven't been so successful, but great that they're working on it. And one person owned up to needing to make some changes and just not getting there yet. So in summary, we see that of our goals, the places where we're having the most impact reported to date are in these areas that are very specifically anchored in the financial literacy and the financial communication realms, less so on that parenting piece. And to wrap up, I thought I'd share some of the qualitative feedback that we got that also sort of speaks to this tension that the team has definitely felt between the blending of the financial piece and the family communication piece. So this was the final 4-square for the class, and the topics that we asked them varied slightly to be more reflective of the whole period. And so we thought that thinking about what you thought you were signing up for with the Family Talks Money Edition class, do you feel like you got what you expected? This adult said, I thought it would be all practical financial, but I'm glad it wasn't. I got a lot out of the parenting and communication portions of the program. This person sort of was on the other side. They wanted more money talk, maybe 25% less parenting, though they conceded that there were connections between the two. This one said, yes, it opened my eyes to what I thought I already knew. This person said, I had no idea what I signed up for, but I was pleasantly surprised. I learned a lot. Now coming from the teens, I got what I expected. classic teen. The food was good, and in the end, it was better than I thought. And this one is my favorite from a teen. I do not feel like I got what I expected. I feel like I got something better. And so with that, we'd love to open up for questions.
If you're online and you have questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. Read them off.
Questions, comments, compliments, anything, we'll take anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, where do you get your beautiful braids? How did you all come up with those games, and like, how did you guys met them to decide that that's the one y'all were gonna keep?
Ooh, they
This
give
is
me,
for everybody, but yes.
I think they give me too much trust. That's what it is. They trust me too much. No. No, a lot of it's just sitting down and we're saying, is this something that teams would find interesting? And then realizing, no, because this is lecture based, or whatever was the original thing. And then we just try to figure out, well, how do we take what would have been lecture based or a worksheet? Because a lot of the stuff that's out there for teams is, I think, designed for use in classrooms. So there's a lot of worksheets involved in stuff. And so being able to say, okay, well, how do we take a worksheet that feels dry and turn it into something that would be of value to a team to be sitting in a 30-minute breakout session at night when they could be at home doing anything else with their time, right? And so that's where it comes from.
Well, I also think he was born that way. Yeah, I mean, it was very complex. Like, we even had to narrow it down a bit like, we couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. It was really hard. So he traps himself in the vault, and then he has this audio, and you play it with a QR code, and it says, I'm stuck in he pulled out his southern accent, and he said, I'm stuck in the vault, and I need to get to a trip in France, and I'm gonna miss my appointments and all these things. And, just find the keys. They're hidden around the room, and da, da, da. And so then you start and you get clues. And I mean, have y'all ever done an escape room? It's really stressful, right? Like, and you don't know if you're even on the right track. And we had to be able to let that go and just be like, they'll figure it out, because you do ultimately figure it out. But there's arcs and stuff like that. He's got them all in there, and you like have to trust that this is going to lead to this and this is going to lead to this. But really trapping everything that was in his brain and writing it down was very big undertaking. Yeah. Because we have to share this with others. We want strangers in Missouri who, ultimately we want to, publish this, and to have a cooperative extension or any agency in the US to use, or wherever. So we want it to be very readable, very replicable. We don't want to spend a bunch of money on supplies, for example. So we've had to kind of fine tune all those things. Go to Goodwill and get a briefcase, that says briefcase, and we really had to make it as homegrown as possible.
Part of the goal of the CYFAR grant is sustainability. So part of it may be sustaining this actual program, and you hope that it continues beyond the funding. But others, in my mind, is taking elements that can be useful. And so the escape room is one that I could see us using. And in fact, it's much more elaborate than we even do here, but making it available as a standalone. So with our Take Charge cats, they can go in, they can teach, and then do the escape room. This June, we're going to have a summer camp here for, I forget what age, but teens basically, and the escape room will be part of that summer camp experience.
I had a follow-up. So for Debbie and Dan and others, like thinking about the gamification, like you do have to simplify things and etc. So like I'm assuming that some content that you wanted to have in your original like intervention, you want to share all of this knowledge, probably had to go. How do you negotiate that? Like making things interactive, fun, and maybe some information doesn't go, or maybe it didn't. Maybe you really were able to.
No, it's been a process. It's been an iterative process from the time we started, and learning right away that some things didn't work. And so the Foursquare, kind of things, the information either we're getting from participants or the instructors themselves is like, it's just not landing. We need to change this up, and we are still changing things. We're tweaking. I think, well, I think Noel and I feel pretty good about the financial literacy aspects of it, but the parenting parts have been not getting the kind of results that we want. We use that evaluation information, the feedback that we're getting from participants and our instructors, and constantly tweak. Our retreats are about that. We meet monthly as a team, and then we have subcommittees that are working on parts of it.
Yeah, I would say, the thing about the parenting parts that haven't landed is that when you think you're coming to a financial literacy class and there's a lot of feelings being talked about, like, it's just not what you're there for a lot of times. And some people were, still embracing of it because we do make it fun, but, notice the name of the class is Family Talks Money Edition. And so we really do want for all of the content that's related to relationship building to be focused on why is that important? What is your vision for your kids for the future is what we usually ask, for example, in a parenting class. What traits do you want your kids to have? Right? We might start out like that. And then we'd be like, okay, now based on your interactions, how do you get your kids there? So that might be a way we would look at just a straight up parent education concept. But for this, we'll say, what skills do you want? What financial skills do you want your kids to have as adults? And that's a very different question.
Yeah.
And so we've been kind of doing that a lot, trying to make it really have the flavor of the money edition. God forbid later or sometime in life, we could do a Family Talks, reproductive health edition. That is a very real one that could be a possibility. And so we've learned a lot about the importance of making making it relevant to the topic that you're addressing. And it's also new for us, a lot of us in the field all across the state, for family consumer health sciences usually work with families that are 5 and under. So it's really new for us to be working with teens in this regard. And it takes some getting used to. Yeah. So, and we've learned a lot. It's been great.
I do want to make it clear that we don't pull a bait and switch. Like we try to market it so that people understand what
Yeah.
they're getting involved
That
in.
was a whole reflective process too. Like
Yeah.
it started as Money Talks Family Edition, and people are like, this is way more not money stuff than I thought I was signing up for. Hence, like that whole chunk of the eval. And so then that was a pivot that the team made to be like, let's make sure people know a little bit more about what they're getting into.
Yeah, it's been incredibly, like, it's just very new for us. So it's great. We've learned a lot.
And within extension across the country, we do have a lot of financial literacy, well, not a lot, but there's an ample amount of financial literacy education programming that's done in extension in other states, but nothing like this. That's what we were finding, that there was a real gap in learning as a family and talking about this as a family. Yes.
Thank you for this. It was amazing to sit through this. I was wondering, I have 2 questions. One of it is like the parenting piece, and I'm not an expert, but I know that the financial parenting piece has like the experimental piece and the observational piece and like the knowledge piece. So like, do y'all tackle all the pieces in terms of like, how are you behaving and what does your child pick up from your financial behaviors and your financial, like the socialization pieces in terms of like observing and like learning from that? And the second part I had was, are you interested in, do y'all see that how the couple or the parents like talk and behave and think about finances impacts the children, if there's some spillover? Because I'm interested in couples and I think about financial education in couples, which is why I was like, this seems like y'all can do this in only couples who are not even parents, and then this would be successful. Which is why I was thinking about the couple piece, and then I was thinking about like the socialization piece. So I have 2-part questions.
Right. So there is a lot of reflection. I'm going to let you guys talk about the content more, but really that idea of what is happening within the family, the parents, and how are they modeling. And part of it has to do with the discussions. And sometimes, as I think Debbie mentioned, that there, some families are right on target. They have a lot of conversations, they share a lot, there's a lot of understanding, and then others really struggle with it. So we talk a lot about how are they influencing what's happening within the household and with their children. And then what was the other part?
Couples.
Oh, and couples, yeah, no, I think couples are really learning a lot about each other, and it's not mandatory that couples come. In fact, we have had all different configurations with
Like grandmothers,
grandparents, and just, families are confusing sometimes, right? There's a lot of different ways that they can be
They're
put
diverse,
together, diverse, yeah. Did you want to add?
Yeah, sure. I think we're kind of getting at like modalities of teaching and like how, like, so I think over 8 weeks, I mean, there's a lot of different types of activities. We have worksheets, we have videos, we have games, we have physical, moving around, like kinesthetic, stand on this side if you feel this way about this and that. And so I think that you just kind of see over time which things appeal to which people based on their style. But I mean, just one thing, there was a time where we had 2 moms paired up and 2 dads paired up, and the activity was called Mistakes Are Wonderful Opportunities to Learn. And we had the kids were not in the room. And the parents were talking about like trying to share with somebody what it meant to learn from your mistakes as a parent or their mistakes, and like the kids' mistakes and how to like improve those and everything. And I think that it tended to be that the moms in that breakout were more defensive. They didn't, it just was the experience that happened at that way. It's just, doesn't mean that all moms would be that way, but in that experience, they just didn't really enjoy that activity. But the dads went on and on and on. And it was really interesting. So it's like, you have to do this a little bit more times to really figure out what with a higher, frequency of reaching people and having them experience it. How do we make this the best that it can be? And what do we really expect from that? I don't know if that really answers your question, but like we did get a diversity of responses to that.
I would say as far as like the financial socialization, like how are the past messages that either active messages or the passive kind of osmosis spongy stuff that the kids have picked up. We don't really talk a whole lot about like what has already been done and what your kids have learned. There's some organic stuff of like moving forward. How do we talk about, how do I teach? How do I involve my teen in aspects? And then there's some organic pushback that we experience with the parents. Like, oh my gosh, you're wanting me to what? Be like super transparent with how I'm spending my money. How do I do that and feel comfortable as a parent? And we find that that's a conversation that just naturally springs up at some point in the series, typically around the budget.
But thank goodness, and I'll say this from the parenting perspective, it makes such a difference if you can have both parents or 2 people from your family in the room for the series, because you can't implement change alone. And, in a home, and like it really does make a difference to have them both kind of bounce it off and be like, well, how do we think this is going to fly? And then if you're trying to do that by yourself, particularly in parenting programs, changing like kind of responses to your kids' behavior, you've got to be on the same page. And so that is just from a couple's perspective, it's really great for us when both parents are in the room.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. This was really fascinating. I was just kind of curious. You guys mentioned that you're in the 4th year of the grants, but I was just kind of curious about like what you guys are still currently doing, like if you're still having these sessions, or what, if anything, will look different in that 5th year, or anything you want to share about that.
One, I'm retiring.
Elephant.
So we're transitioning. Madeline will be the primary investigator or director of the program, and Ashley and Debbie are co-PIs, and handing it off to them. We are right now in Pima County doing there's a lot of tweaking and organizing there were some pieces that we felt were maybe redundant. And so we're kind of streamlining. I think we're going to reduce to 7
Maybe.
workshops. We're
Mhm.
still working all that out. So that's where we're at right now in the spring here. But I think the plan is to work towards maybe publishing this in some way or getting it ready to move to another stage. We are looking for there's some interest in supporting financially.
Yeah, I was
come up
gonna
in
ask
some
you
way.
if we should mention that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's fun to
yeah.
mention.
It's a donor, we won't say their name, but that is interested in giving us $1,000 per family when they finish the class. Yeah. And so we would open up an account. If they don't already have a 529 education account, then we would have them open one up, and that the donor will put $1,000 into it for people that finish the 8 sessions.
That'd be
Which I think we'll be pushing people away at
You
that
will.
point.
Which I think is in part why we're trying to streamline it, right? Is because with that particular incentive, we anticipate it scaling
Yeah,
to larger audiences.
Yeah.
Like we need to be able to make
Needs to be
sure
tight.
that it's tight
super tight, yeah.
so that it's deliverable, because it's a big endeavor.
It's all hands on deck. There's nothing I've ever done that has taken this many people and this much time, and like, it's a lot, and it's worth it. It's fun. It's all hands on deck. And yeah, but you want to make sure you're using your time as wisely as possible.
Because each of the counties is dedicating at least 4 to 5 professional staff for each series that is delivered, because you need 2 instructors, you need 1 childcare person, and then you typically need someone else that can be
do
support.
leftovers and all the things. If anybody wants to volunteer with us, let us know. We'll be doing it again in the fall. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It is. And you really get to see a lot. And there was so a mom and her daughter on there, and you just look at some of the changes. You never know what's going to hit a family. And I mean, oh, that girl was giving her much. She was writing her in every class, smart aleck comments every single time. And we got to the session on family meetings, and you just wouldn't necessarily, some families already do family meetings. They'd done them, but just hadn't really maximized them. They're probably, whenever she was in trouble, is likely what was happening, or something like that. And they learned how to really do family meetings successfully, and their whole dynamic changed. And that's going to help them for everything, not just the money parts. But they were so grateful, and I wouldn't have guessed that would be the thing, and that was the thing that really worked for them. It's great.
So the evaluation information has really helped not only inform what we're doing with the program, but this donor was really floored by what we were able to show him.
And Gila is still rocking and rolling. They did a
They're-
February class that their data isn't crunched yet, and they have an April class coming up, and so still going too.
Great, thank you, yes. Did you
Is
have-
Ashley on? She is, yes.
She actually has a question.
And she clarified the Money Talks Family Edition name change. So the question from Ashley is, did you find any differences in the evaluation data between rural Gila versus urban Pima participants?
We have, as Ashley probably knows, have consolidated them because the numbers are so tiny. So I think Gila in that is maybe 7 graduates. So we haven't done the slicing and dicing. But qualitatively, I do feel like things that you would say, oh, this session didn't land, Ashley would fight to
Yes.
keep.
Yes, yes. And I don't know if she feels like chiming in, talking about the difference that she experiences there than here. Like, it's very stark, the difference between Globe, Arizona and Tucson. So, yeah.
So Ashley, you can talk if you want to unmute yourself, but not to put you on the spot or anything.
I can say too if but
I didn't hear the question. What was the question?
dynamics you think are different as far as implementing their rural versus here.
Right. Yeah, we have quite a big difference, as well as and I know it's time ending. So if people want to reach out, we can, but I think one of the big differences is just kind of our approach to outreach and things like that. Here everything is word of mouth. It's and so we've had to work a lot with trying to get key trusted individuals in the room so that we can put it on, get them to put it on Facebook or Insta or whatever to sing praises of it to get people in the door. Also, our population is probably falls on the less educated, I'm putting air quotes up, side of what Madeline shared there. So the demographic is just quite different as well. And so we've had to work a lot on the approaches of the two different sites and kind of what works best for each site. And so on and so forth. So if anybody would be interested in talking more about that and program implementation in rural and also on tribal lands, I would be happy. I'll put my my email in the chat and anybody can reach out to me anytime.
Fantastic.
Thank you. And we are at time, so thank you all so much.